This is Why Am I a Mets Fan, a podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
Hello, everybody. What's up? Welcome into the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston, and we are joining you actually for round 2 of this podcast tonight. I'm just going to break the ice and say it. We actually just recorded this podcast, but it didn't go through. We're going to record it again because we have a lot of exciting things to talk about, including the fact that the Mets just won the first game in the wild card series, 8-4 against the Brewers. How are we feeling?
Yeah, they got off to a hot start. Good to win game 1, as always. I mean, this was a game that the Mets, I said this in the first one, I'll say it again, isn't going to hit as hard. They came out and won the hangover game. And honestly, I didn't expect them to win the hangover game today. I thought if the Mets were going to win this series, it would have been in games 2 and 3. So love to see that. Obviously, they had quite the celebration after clinching the playoffs over the Braves on Monday. And then to come out and get a win today in Milwaukee on the road, no days off for this team.
But you know what? You need to give some credit where credit's due, okay? Because my boy Sevy was telling everybody to hydrate, and there was water.
Sevy had the water.
Listen, people drank water, and the results were positive, as you can see by the outcome of this game.
Yeah.
In the first inning, the Brewers went up 2-0. The second run was scored off a Hoskins hit by pitch. Honestly, I feel like that was the lowest low. Like, past
the
that.
Hit by pitch to Hoskins, too. I mean, come on, folks. Come on. Sevy didn't have a lot of control in that first few innings. I didn't know how this game was going to go off the bat. Obviously, he lets up 2 runs in the first inning. Things were looking bleak. But testament to Luis Severino, he rebounded.
I love when you're like, things sucked for a minute, but they were fine.
I was scared.
We were all scared, but we were all rooting for him. And you saw, obviously, Mendoza up there. They're having some discussions on the mound. But, like, end of the day, what else? Yes, the Brewers went up 2-0. But, like, what are you going to do? Just have, like, your bullpen just throw 7 innings of baseball? We're not doing that. No, that's unacceptable.
But I did have, not at 2-0, but when it was like, then the Brewers came back, I think it was 3-3. The Brewers went up 4-3. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, is this the moment that Luis Severino does not have his best stuff tonight? Maybe let's get him out of this game. I don't know. I don't want to throw my bullpen 6-7 innings, but maybe I might have to. And the testament to Luis Severino is he rebounded. He went 6 innings. He only gave up those 4 earned runs. I mean, he found a way to get through it on a night where he very clearly did not have his best stuff. Kind of inspiring. Like, I wanted Mendoza to pull him there at a few points, but then to leave him in and have him fight through it. Now, certainly they started hitting and they gave him a sizable cushion, but even so, he figured it out on a night where he didn't have his grade A stuff.
It's, again, that 1-2 punch of Mendoza leaving him in and then him finding a way. The final line was 6 innings pitched, 8 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. You mentioned it. End of the day, he found a way. They found a way. Reversing for a minute, it was the second inning that the Mets take their first lead, go up 3-2. Winker, of all people, triples, and Vientos scored, Alonso scored. He had not, to say the very least, been hitting well up until that point.
Yeah, you want to talk about Mendoza pressing all the right buttons tonight. First of all, he gives Winker the start, who's been in a bit of a slump. That proves to be a good move. He triples in the 3 runs to have the Mets take the lead 3-2. And then even beyond that, after that, he then, after Winker had been the hero earlier in the game, subs him out for JD Martinez, has him hit for Winker, and Martinez makes it 8-4. So really just Carlos Mendoza masterclass of pushing all the right buttons once again. And it was guys tonight, it was guys that aren't necessarily, it was not your Brandon Nimmo's, it was not your Francisco Lindor's, it was your JD Martinez and your Jesse Winker. So that, to me, I like to see that.
You know what? Mendoza, that dude is playing chess, not checkers.
He knows something.
You know what I'm saying?
Something.
He knows something I don't know.
Jesse Winker is a funny guy for me because I used to play a lot of MLB The Show. And in the show... You're not prepared for this story. And in the show, like, one of the worst guys, I played with, like, the All-Star team. One of the worst guys on my team was Jesse Winker. So every time I would hear, like, Ken Rosenthal or, like, whoever the announcer's voice be like, and Jesse Winker, I'd be like, oh, my God. Like, I can't hit with Jesse Winker.
No.
But now Jesse Winker comes up, and sometimes he does good things. So,
he
Jesse
redeemed
Winker,
himself.
you're having a positive character arc.
Absolutely.
Sorry you sucked in the show.
One thing about Ashley, she loves a positive character arc.
Yeah.
Beyond that, It's this fifth inning thunder, and the Mets go up 8-4, and everybody was involved. We got to take a beat on it. We got to give our OMG man a little credit because he reached base on an infield single to first. Taylor scored, and Lindor went to second. They're tied 4-4.
There are so few players in Major League Baseball that would have sprinted down that line like Jose Iglesias did. I mean, we love him. We've been saying it all year. Candelita, OMG. That's just hustle that you can't replicate. That's just a guy either has that in him or he doesn't have that in him. Obviously, it was great to see, and I've said this all year. If Lindor is the engine, Iglesias is the catalyst. Like, he's just their spark. If the match lights, a lot of times the fire that gets lit is Lindor, but like Iglesias is the strike of the match, you know?
That was beautiful.
Thank you. I'm here all night. I actually made that joke a few times already, but I'm still here all night.
Wait, I'm still thinking her jokes are funny. Retell them.
She's still laughing.
Play them back. Just have my coffee now this time. Cheers, everybody.
It's 9:22 p.m.
Crisp 9:22 p.m.
Thanks.
But it wasn't just Iglesias. And listen, you mentioned it just to kind of put a little bow on that part of it. You say not that many guys in MLB would hustle on that play. But you know who would? A 36-year-old
Latin pop star
who wants to give it everything he got and never thought he'd be in this position.
Also, if anyone knows when the OMG remix is dropping, it's supposed to be this first week of October. When is that coming out? I need it.
We will be playing that on the episode.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you had Vientos in there. You had Martinez, who you mentioned, singled to right, and he's the one who ultimately made it 8-4. Like, listen, everybody was helping out today, and you mentioned it. It wasn't necessarily the guys who you're normally used to seeing, but end of the day, 6 different players had a hit.
And end of the day, I mean, like, we talked about it in our last episode, Tuesday morning. Iglesias and Vientos, 2 guys that started out in good old AAA Syracuse this year, and 2 guys that are playing a very, very important role now. I mean, it was down the stretch, and now throughout this team's postseason run. So Jose Iglesias was a guy who was literally going to be out of baseball. He was going to retire. I mean, David Stern's masterclass.
And I just, you know what? That just makes me so happy. His whole life is going to change now.
Yeah. Well, now he's a Latin pop star, too.
Yeah,
Like, would he have been a Latin pop star if he was not still in Major League Baseball?
And like his family's future is set up, and I'm happy
like
for
that
him.
song went like triple platinum or whatever it did. I don't know. It
I
was a
really
hit.
liked that song. I gotta
Kind of
be
a
honest.
banger. I'm here for the remix.
Total banger. So the other thing is, have a couple really interesting stats that, in my opinion, are feel-good stats. But
Sure.
it's hard to get Ashley to that place right now, and I can't blame her. As of 2023. Every team to have eliminated the Brewers from the playoffs has gone on to at least appear in the World Series that season. Heard that today. You want to talk about a head scratcher?
I mean,
What?
that's a stat, like one of those random baseball stats, because like, okay, the Brewers. But honestly, it's a stat that makes me a little nervous because that should be a positive sign for the Mets. I don't know. It makes me a little apprehensive. I'm not sure. Yeah, and then if the Mets become the only team to not do that, yeah, right. I just get down the negative roads. It's just the turns that my mind takes because
She has
I'm a
some
Mets
intrusive
fan.
thoughts.
I have intrusive thoughts, but yeah, what a stat that is. And I have a better one for you that I brought up. So
One up me.
I had to work my job today, unfortunately. So I wasn't honestly, in truth, able to watch much of this game, bits and pieces where I could find a TV here and there. But I was listening to Howie Rose on the radio on my phone while I was doing other things, interviewing Syracuse football players, for instance. And Howie Rose pointed out that of the wild card series is a relatively new thing in the playoff structure, whatever. Of the teams that have won game 1, 14 of 16 times has that team gone on to then win the series. I mean, it's a game of odds, best of 3. You won the first one. I think it's significantly harder to come out and win the next 2 after that. We'll see what happens. I'm not jinxing anything, but it's you want to get off on that note, especially on the road.
I mean, listen, the Brewers that like makes no sense to me. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like you win the first game, you have the momentum. And guess what? The on the road thing, I'm just not buying into it anymore. Number one, there were Mets fans there that showed up today. They were showing them on the broadcast, so shout out. But the other thing is they also mentioned that the road teams are now 3-0 in the wild card round so far this year. I don't care about that anymore. I feel like the Mets have overcome far too much for that to really be a factor. I feel like this team is just very unbothered by things like that. Like at this point in the season, when everyone knows it's win or go home, I don't think that's going to matter. I really don't.
Yeah, I said it before, right? Like game 161 that we saw on Monday was the culmination of the Mets season. This game one of the wild card series also felt like the culmination of the Mets season. They do get behind. Their starter doesn't have his best stuff, and they still figure out a way to come from behind to win this first game. They've been doing it all year. They've been figuring out a way in times where not everything is going perfectly. Not a lot has gone right for this Mets team this year, but here they are with a 1-game lead in the NL wild card series, and we'll see if they can make their way to the NLDS and make their way to Philly. I'm not jinxing it.
I understand, but you got to admit, like, you had a thought today about the Phillies. You thought about the Phillies today.
I started thinking about Philadelphia today. I'm sorry. When it was clear to me that they were going to win that game, which after it was 8-4 and it was like the 7th inning, there was no real world in my head where they were losing. Jose Butto, masterful in relief, by the way, 2 innings of long relief, but I started to think about Philadelphia, and that's maybe I already jinxed it. Maybe we're already flying too close to the sun. But I got a lot of friends. I got a lot of people that are Phillies fans, and I said it. I will not go back on it now that I wanted them to play the Phillies more than the Dodgers. Doesn't mean the whole concept doesn't make me nervous at this time.
Ashley, it's okay to hope.
Well, I mean,
it's okay to have dreams.
Not when you're a Mets fan. The hope because then my hopes just get shattered. The minute you start to have any expectation, no expectations. We're playing with house money.
Playing with house money. I like that.
The football team's going to Vegas, so I've been thinking about gambling a lot.
Playing with house money. Not to mention, listen, some other credit where credit's due. The Mets pitching staff in general retired the last 17 batters. I mean, that also, I think, is part of the reason why, for me, beyond that 5th inning, it felt like the game was over the whole time.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, Jose Butto, masterclass. And look, you saw Severino get through it tonight. Now you have Minaya in game 2, Quintana slated for a potential game 3. Manaya's been fantastic all year long. We've talked about it. At the same time, I saw some splits today. His career, he has not been very good in the postseason by any means. At the same time, I don't think Sean Manaea has ever been in this high leverage of a starting pitcher role, if that makes any sense, throughout his career. I don't think he's been like the number 2 guy in his career to the extent he is with the Mets this year. So maybe that adrenaline does something for him. Anyways, the flip side of that coin is Jose Quintana has been fantastic in the postseason, if you can even believe that. So we'll see what shakes out the next 2 nights. Hopefully it's only one night. I mean, listen, if we could just win tomorrow, what a delight that would be to just sweep the series. We'll see you on Saturday in Philadelphia. Like, that would be great.
I'll even admit, and I feel like I'm normally the optimist in this yin and yang. For some reason, that does feel oddly unlikely to me.
Oh, they're going to play game 3, and
right?
I know they will,
Yeah.
but this is me talking myself into this potential option.
I understand. Anything else that you would like to say? And then we'll wrap it up. And again, no promises. Like Ashley said, we do have day jobs, so we just do this. And by the way, our day jobs is also broadcasting. We're just doing this as much as we possibly can. So hopefully we get to do it again tomorrow. But there's a lot of people who make it happen, so we'll see. But final thoughts on game 1 and beyond.
Game 1, it was a full team win, right? They hit. Severino did just enough. The bullpen took it from there on out. Carlos Mendoza made a slew of good decisions. Like I said, I mean, let's just win in game 2. The Mets are, if you can even believe it, 1 win away from playing postseason baseball at Citi Field, folks. 1 win away.
Like that part. Let's talk about that part. Citi Field, man. Come on. My last note will be that, they interviewed Francisco Lindor after the game. And he essentially said on the season, there's been a lot of ups and downs. There's been shenanigans. There's been traveling. But end of the day, so far, they have found a way to overcome all of that. I see no reason why they can't continue to do it and overcome it tomorrow and potentially the next day. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find us at WhyMetsPod on our YouTube, Instagram, social media platforms, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Otherwise, let's go Mets. We do hope to see you back here tomorrow.